Hello and welcome back to the Inside the Eagles live podcast TV, whatever it is that you want to call it. Thank you guys very much for joining us. We're back today. What day is today? August 18th. Thank you for joining us. We got to watch a gorgeous preseason game. It was a crisp 3.5 hours long. So that was sick. I want to take a step back, Brandon, before we kind of get into everything. I want to kind of hit the time machine, just rewind it a little bit back to an April 30th of 2015. There was a young man coming out of Oregon by the name of Marcus Mariota, and the talks were all about what do the Eagles give up in order to move up in the draft and pick him. And there's talks of multiple first-round picks. Fletcher Cox. Well, and we go to August 17th of 2023, and we watch a guy get a passer rating of 42.8 in a half a football against twos. A guy who was a starting quarterback for an NFL team last year, and Marcus Mariota has lost the hearts of everyone. That's where we're at.
It happened very fast. I must say that.
Good God, dude. That was. We were talking before the show. Brandon said that he didn't watch the fourth quarter, which is enviable. Because I'm very much done with preseason football, but you did get to watch the monstrosity that was that first half of football, man. Marcus, buddy.
I mean, like, it's crazy because the thought behind like a backup quarterback is like, if things for some reason with Jalen Hurts go wrong in terms of injury, you want to have a guy that can stabilize your offense. And the thought process was Mariota has a similar playing style to Hurts in the sense of the ability to move around and move the pocket. It allows the Eagles to not really have to change too much for their offense if they lost their starter.
Right.
You know, the problem is your backup quarterback needs to be able to complete passes. It doesn't matter how athletic, how fast, how quick you are, how you're able to move around a pocket. You got to complete passes, and whether it's throwing the ball short or overthrowing guys or turning the ball over, which is a big no-no as a backup who's probably going to be asked to be a game manager if he ever came in. You know, these are just the things where it's funny, I'm joking, but you know, it really has gone from, oh, we're hyped to have Mariota to, oh my goodness, this guy can't be our backup quarterback.
And it took no time to do it. And I brought this up. What data brought this up on Monday or Friday? It must have been Monday. Talking about with Minshew in last year, you're like, man, you got to throw out half of the playbook because he doesn't have the effective mobility. And then Mariota's in now, and it's like you got to throw out the other half of the playbook, and
because he can't throw.
Because he can't throw. And in your thought, like if you're like you said, you want it to be able to be stable. And like an offense to be stable, and what your options. So if you have Mariota as your QB2, you're like, okay, this guy needs to be as effective on his feet to make up the yardage that Jalen wouldn't have made. But if you keep him in there, you're getting rid of Devontae Smith, you're getting rid of AJ Brown, you're getting rid of Dallas Goedert, you're getting rid of what could potentially be DeAndre Swift receiving yards. You're getting rid of all of the receiving yards. You're getting rid of football in the year 2023. You're getting rid of that part of
it. And I know this is like an Eagles podcast, but it relates to this. I mean, it makes you wonder about the Atlanta Falcons offense, right? It makes you wonder, you know, all these great weapons they have. Why was Drake London struggling? Why was Kyle Pitts having such a bad year?
I know.
Mariota, you're seeing that, okay, maybe because fans and outside people aren't privy to what's going on in a building. Maybe Arthur Smith saw, oh my God, our quarterback can't complete passes. We're just going to have to run the ball 35 times a game.
And that's what Twitter was all last night, was just all these like distraught Falcons fans being like, hey man, yeah, dude, we know we know that we told you that this is what's going to happen. I saw like 3 times people were posting that video of him getting sacked or tackled while he like was rolling out.
Yeah.
Well, he just threw the ball. He just like blindfold playing 500 in the cul-de-sac. He just
and it falling to the ground. It was I remember watching that live. It was very, very
like, what the
interesting.
Hell? What the hell is he doing? Man.
And also on top of that, the guy has nerve damage in his arm.
Yeah.
There's got to be a point in time where you're just like, all right, yeah, this isn't working. Like, I can't do this anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's so much going to get because like you want to pile on him because of what the hell that is.
But you don't want to at the same time.
But you don't want to at the same time because number one, like you said, he's got the nerve damage, and then he spoke about this in like the post game presser after the Ravens game. He mentioned that like somebody asked him, they're like, hey, what are your thoughts on like the situation going on in Maui, like the wildfires and stuff there, like stuff's playing like. I don't care like if that's like your thoughts while you're preparing or pregame or while you're on the field, that's gonna get you right. And nobody's blaming him for that. Nobody's blaming him for that at all. But oh God, facts are facts, man. I saw it with my eyes. That was brutal. And then after the game in the post game, he's like, "Yeah, I played sloppy." It's like I've seen slop. I was born in the slop. That was not slop. That was brutality.
It was crazy because you see like him going through his reads and all of a sudden he fires the pass and sails 10 feet over the receiver's head. The safety for the Browns making a diving catch to intercept. It's like, where were you throwing the ball?
Do you think Grant Calcaterra is Boban? Like he's not 7'2". Like it was incredibly
and it wasn't just the overthrows, right? It was the Zacchaeus throw where he threw it behind him, where that doesn't get you the first down on third down.
Right.
And instead, Zacchaeus has to spin around like a top, try to make a catch, drops it. Yes, it hit him in the hand, and he probably should have caught it. But better ball placement, that moves the chains. In a real game situation, that could cost you points. That could cost you field position, different stuff along those lines. You know, especially if it got to a real game with Mariota in there, if defenses see that he can't throw the ball, well, guess what? Now your Eagles rushing attack that's so effective now isn't effective because defenses are able to stack the box. They're like, okay, Marcus Mariota, beat us in the air.
Right.
And then your entire offense is just basically in the mud.
Yeah, you're not. It's not even tying a hand behind your back. It's cutting them off and then rubbing them in salt or acid or I don't know, Komodo dragon spit. Like you're killing yourself by doing that. This is a good comment. Nobody would have blamed him if he took the night off. Better than what he put out there, and that is that's a hard agree by me. That is absolutely like if he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go try to like help people out rather than put out a terrible tape and a terrible performance, we'd have been like, yeah, man, you go do that. Like we can be fine with the Tanner McKee Ian Book show. That's what we want. Not
even at the lower levels, like a high school, D3, D2, even D1, which is still college, but higher level. The slightest mental like stress or the slightest thing that you're thinking about can throw you completely off your game. I've went through this playing sports too. At the NFL, you see it all the time. The slightest tweak of a hamstring can cause you to go from a top receiver to a middling, like age, the slightest slowdown. If you're even thinking about something else or your mind's even a little bit elsewhere, that can completely just screw up your game and allow you to not play at your best. So I agree with that as well.
Yeah, and again, yeah, the performing poorly can lose people jobs. This is what I kind of brought up when, and I did not. Now, okay, by all the reports from training camp, Brett Toth, when he was playing center, was doing a terrible job just dribbling the ball on the ground. And that obviously that's going to blow up a play. Like Brett, this is kind of goes in the same point. Brett Toth playing snapping the ball poorly can make other people play poorly as well. But then you get Marcus Mariota throwing bad passes, and I've always been a guy, not always, but now I'm a guy. I'm anti-Quez Watkins guy. I'm pro Olamide Zaccheaus guy. And if Olamide Zaccheaus is taking reps with the twos, not any reps with the ones, then Marcus Mariota and his trash arm is throwing to Olamide Zaccheaus. You're not even giving him a chance. So it's a very, man, turns out the guy who touches the ball every single play is pretty important to how the ship runs. Who would have thought? That is...
And then that brings you to the guy that comes in after Mariota, and
the people's champ.
It's crazy because I look, last week I said, hey, maybe it's time to start thinking about McKee as the number 2. I that was kind of like half joking.
Right.
I didn't expect it to become like, okay, this might actually be the best avenue.
Yeah, the popular opinion.
Yeah, for the Eagles this year. I didn't expect it to flip like that.
Oh, God. And it's one of those things, and you think, like, it's hard to be like, yeah, somebody can win or lose a job in training camp. A lot of times you're talking about those roster bubble guys. You're like, man, Marcus Mariota might be losing that QB2 job. But what do you think would go into that? What, because it sounded like yesterday, and I know this is a Nick Sirianni thing where somebody asked him, said along the lines of like, what do you think about Tanner McKee being QB2? And he said it's too early to say. And I agree. You're paying Marcus Mariota $5 million. It is probably too early to say on that. What needs to happen in order for McKee to either move up to QB2 or for Mariota to move to QB3, or that to happen simultaneously?
So I think there's two. There's probably more, but for me, right off the bat, top of my head, there's 2 ways it happens. Number 1 is probably the option most Eagles fans would prefer.
Yep.
Is Mariota continues to bottom out. He bottoms out in the 3rd preseason game. McKee looks great again. The Eagles are like, we're not risking this. Mariota is our 3rd emergency backup, whatever you want to call him. McKee is our number 2. Let him develop there because we feel better about him playing in the games, just being a game manager type and not turning the ball over and completing passes where he can complete them, because we saw, his placement, his velocity, his touch on different throws at all different levels of the field is adequate enough where we feel good with him at number 2. That's option 1 in my eyes. Option 2 is, unfortunately, involving injury. Essentially, and I don't want this to happen 1,000%, but it's too early to tell. Well, does Sirianni mean that now? Or let's say in the regular season, Hurts gets injured, Mariota comes in and loses the Eagles a game. Because let's face it, the way he's playing right now, that'd be a very realistic scenario for Mariota playing quarterback to lose the Eagles a game.
Oh, yeah.
In that case, the Eagles would probably have to be like, okay, we can't have Mariota legitimately costing us games. That's when the McKee moves to technically the backup, but now playing in whatever games Jalen's missing, and then McKee officially becomes the backup. I would lean towards more of the first option because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better for Mariota.
Yeah.
I mean, game 1 was bad. Game 2, I'd argue, was even worse. And McKee just continues to look solid. But if Sirianni wants to let it run its course, and maybe that's not even just because they play, it's because of the amount of money you're paying the guy. But if he wants to let it run its course, that unfortunately could have ramifications in the regular season.
Yeah, and I brought this up, and I'm gonna and hopefully I'm not gonna have to say, hey, remember back on August 18th when I said this, because I believe I said this on Monday as well. Keep in mind that if there comes a time when Jalen is not the starting quarterback, if Marcus Mariota is does get that start, keep in mind he's going to have a short leash on him. All right, and then that means like last year when Jalen went out and Gardner Minshew came in. And in fantasy, you're like, okay, he's got all the weapons around him. Maybe he could be a good substitute. So in fantasy, if there comes a time when Jalen is out and Marcus Mariota gets a start, don't play Marcus Mariota. He will not get you the same fantasy points with this offense because he is, I don't know. Do you have the yips? I've had the yips. I would not wish that on anybody.
It's just so tough because as I love Jalen Hurts and his play style, but he has missed games in the past.
Yep.
He's not been a guy that's had the model bill of health. He's been relatively healthy in the sense of avoiding these season-long injuries.
Right.
But if he misses a game or two, are you confident in Mariota doing what it takes to even have an adequate or average offense? And I think that's what has to come down to for the Eagles decision makers. And if they think that decision could have ramifications. If they don't think that, then McKee will be the backup.
Yeah, and that's one thing that does kind of make me. It makes me. I thought about this the other day. It makes me a little bit more hopeful that with the on the Jalen injury front. So what was it in 2021? Was it his ankle? Is that what it was that was giving him trouble? Is that why he missed games?
I think so. It was something along those.
Yeah, lines. It was like and that injury does come with his style of play that year. That where he was like a run first. The last year the injury was like a kind of a freakish injury because the most times or when a quarterback injures their arm, a lot of times it's that AC joint in the shoulder. But I think it was the SC joint. So it's like almost like close to the middle of your chest. And that's kind of a freakish one to hurt. So to me, in my brain, in order to try to make myself feel better about it, because yes, there is obviously you could say he's missed games every year. But last year was kind of like, yeah, it was due to his play style, like the running. But the injury itself was not an injury that is like typical that happens there. So that's one thing that gives me some hope. We got this question. Do you guys think there's a better option out there than Marcus Mariota on the free agent market?
Unless you want to bring back Carson Wentz, I don't think so.
Matt Ryan's out there?
I don't think Matt Ryan would be because you worry about the durability, and Ryan's almost 40 years old.
Yeah, that's true. And it's again, if you're looking for a quarterback I mean, that's one of the probably one of the two main reasons that they got Marcus Mariota was because he can use his legs in an offense. There's not one out there. Carson Wentz, he's out there practicing for 3 teams at the same time, like an absolute psychopath. What are you doing? That's you know what that is? When that picture came out of Carson Wentz wearing the Eagles helmet, the Commanders jersey, and the Colts shorts, that is what you wear. All right. That is what you wear if you're making fun of Carson Wentz when you dress up as Carson Wentz for Halloween. That's what Carson Wentz did with that. He's a caricature of himself. What a goddamn loser this guy.
Yeah, I thought it looked like he was just trying to bring attention to himself. But
yeah,
on that front with the question, if it's not Mariota, your best option probably is trading for a guy mid-season, seeing what teams are in different situations, what teams feel good about their quarterback situation. Maybe in a similar vein to the Eagles, have a guy emerge where the presumed backup isn't actually the backup, and now you're trying to trade for a guy. I mean, if you really want to look at it, a team like I would personally look towards, I don't know how realistic it would be San Francisco. Whatever one of their guys, falls quote unquote out of favor. Maybe it's Trey Lance, maybe it's Sam Darnold. I think Lance could be good in the right situation. I think Darnold's just an adequate backup. They would have to make that determination on pulling the trigger on someone like that. Those are the type of guys where I think they would have to look at either it being an upside play for the season where something happens to your quarterback and now you have to make an adjustment, or you just see Mariota isn't going to work out and you need to upgrade it immediately.
Yeah, I mean, all of this, and the problem is all of this, it's such an incredible downgrade that if that does happen, everything is bad. Everything it's going to be, it's everything.
You basically need the defense to carry you.
Yep, you need Reed Blankenship pick sixes 3 times a game for 3 months straight. That would be the solution to that. So let's see. Couple news things that we got. So there was 6 injuries in the game last night. 3 of them bad. The 3 that were bad were Zach McPherson, Tyree Cleveland, and Moro Ojomo. If you didn't see it, let me pull this thing up if I can find out how to use StreamYard. And I'm really bad. Oh, here we go. Okay, you're the smartest man alive, Jacob. Eagles tweeted this out in the last night's game against the Cleveland Browns. Eagles wide receiver Tyree Cleveland and defensive tackle Moro Ojomo both suffered injuries that required immediate treatment on the field. Philadelphia Eagles medical team exercised an abundance of caution as it took the necessary steps in the case of the players to ensure the best possible outcome for their health and well-being. Both players were responsive, had full function, all extremities on the field. Cleveland, yeah. So these guys that looked that got taken out on stretchers while they're on the field are moving. Actually, what did that say at the bottom? That said something. Yes. Okay. That was the most. I stopped reading until the most important part. Tyree Cleveland has concussion and a neck sprain, which sounds like absolute hell. Moro Ojomo has been diagnosed with concussion. So that's where we are with that. Expanding on that, if the NFL is going to have stretchers come out for every person that gets a concussion this year, these games are going to take about 5 hours apiece.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing, obviously, is that these guys are obviously okay. Like they have movement in their extremities, that there's nothing like really, really serious. And, yes, they might take 5 hours, but I'd rather them take the precaution than just kind of like drag them off the field and just keep the game moving. Because then I personally wouldn't like the look of that. So, yes, it might take longer, but I'd rather them take the precautionary measures with all that, because it actually shows, maybe the NFL cares a little bit about player safety.
Yeah. They will bring the stretcher out for your concussion, but don't worry, you're still going to play 17 games with only 1 bye week. So that's them. It's called penance. And then Zach McPherson with a torn Achilles, second torn Achilles for an Eagles player in 1 calendar week. Not what calendar week, in a 7-day span, 6-day span, 5-day span. I don't know days now that I'm thinking about it. So he's out for the season, which is kind of a kick in the dick. Because Avonte Maddox, with his play style, doesn't stay healthy throughout an entire season. So that's where we are with that. Do you know who would be? Would it be Josh Jobe, Josiah Scott?
I mean, looking at the depth chart, I mean, I'm not sure if this is the quote unquote updated, but on our lads, they have Josiah Scott behind McPherson. Okay. I don't know. The whole thing with like slot corners is like it takes a specific type of skill set.
Right.
You'd like maybe an Eli Ricks or Josh Jobe to slide in there. Are they going to be able to, run and cover with the guys in the slot, not really have the quote unquote assistance of the sideline on some of the different routes and stuff like that? Because you're asking a lot of your slot corner, and it's really an underrated position of football, because you have to basically stay with the wide receiver in the middle of the field. You're going against sometimes guys that are a lot smaller and shiftier than you, and sometimes guys that are bigger and stronger than you. You have to be able to adjust to all different types. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Eagles address that backup slot corner.
Yeah, it's going to be whoever it is going to end up they're going to play incredibly significant snaps, because we're talking week 14, where it's a long season. That would be 4 weeks after the bye week. People are going to be banged up. Week 14 is Dallas. Somebody's going to have to cover CeeDee Lamb. That's the fact of the matter. And if you get a guy out there who is just a straight up clown, buddy, it's going to be a very, very, very long day. Now I will say, you're bringing up who could, or we were talking about who could fill in there during the joint practices. James Bradbury was taking some snaps covering the bigger guys, kind of from maybe like a halfway nickel, halfway just being a bigger cornerback on some of these bigger guys, like what Jonathan Gannon probably should have had him do to Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl. But he was too busy getting a new job to focus on that. So that is something that could potentially maybe, I don't want to say be good, because it certainly wouldn't be as good as having James Bradbury just play a position that he plays and have Avonte Maddox be there, but it could at least be some kind of relief. Maybe I'm looking too far into that.
Well, I mean, in that case, you're really relying on, behind Bradbury.
Yeah.
Like, but you're looking at Ringo to step up and make sure his ball skills are, at a higher level than what they've been in the preseason. You're asking guys like, once again, a Job or an Eli Ricks to really step up, because if you're moving Bradbury to the slot, you got to have a reliable outside corner.
Right. That being said, I feel like there's much more depth at outside corner than there is at nickel. So
yes,
it's just something that I'm afraid, again, when we get later into the season, there's big guys playing slot now. That's just a fact of the matter. There's just big guys playing slot, and you can't just leave a big guy, again, like CeeDee Lamb, just able to just eat your butt. You can't let him do that.
Yeah.
That's a weird way to phrase it. I understand. And as soon as it left my mouth, I said, that is not the words I wanted.
It happens.
Okay. Other injuries. I know there was the Nolan Smith went out. Seemed like he was good. Before halftime, he was like smiling when he walked into the locker room. And as a person who is injured a lot, I'm injury prone just in life. I typically don't smile when it's serious, so I'm not worried about that one. And then I think after the game, he said that they took him out as like a precautionary thing. I don't know. It's not what you want to see, but it seems like he's okay.
I mean, on the Nolan Smith front, I mean, obviously not great that he's injured, and I think he'll end up being okay. But man, he is going to provide a different level of speed rush to that Eagles defense when they put him on the field. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was going up against DeJuan Jones of the Browns. Giant tackle, like a 6'5", 6'6" behemoth. He was using his hands and just flinging him around and getting around the edge. Like, it's just something where we've talked about it. He's going to add a different element to that pass rush, to the point where they're just going to have, kind of like basketball, guys that fill all different types of roles, all different types of like sizes, like the speed guy, the power guy. And he's adding that different element to where now defenses can't just key in on one or two guys. They now have to worry about an entire defensive front.
Right. Yeah. No, it's exciting because last week was, it was only for 2 plays, but last week was kind of the Jalen Carter show. And then this week was Nolan Smith going out there and showing exactly what he was drafted for. Man, he was on that one that what people are saying on Twitter is that he got injured twice. One time, I guess he didn't like address it or anything like that. I didn't see it and like rewatch it. I didn't notice it. I guess I wasn't necessarily looking for it, but on the one that he did like get dinged up with his shoulder, buddy, he's quick. Buddy, he is quick. That is just like, oh, Jesus Christ. There's nothing else to say about it. Like, that is a fast man. That is a bad man. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that level of depth and agility and speed that he's going to bring to the team. Who else got hurt? Olamide Zaccheaus, I think, had like a leg thing, but then he came back to the sideline. Take from that what you will. Like I said, I'm more of an Olamide guy than I am a Quez guy. Hope that he does well and at least gets some turn getting the ball. Who was the last guy that got injured? I can't remember.
I feel like that was almost everyone, but was there someone else?
I thought there was 6. I feel bad. I feel bad for getting somebody. Maybe
let me double check.
Marcus Mariota's feelings or soul.
You hit Cleveland, Zaccheaus, Nolan Smith, Ojomo. Oh, Josh Andrews.
Josh Andrews. Yep. They didn't really give a whole lot of juice to that one on the broadcast or anything. He kind of just went out with a leg, ankle maybe.
Yeah, they mentioned it was a lower body injury, right?
Yep. Yeah. So depth center, potentially can swing to guard, I guess. I don't know. That one doesn't really register for me, but it still stinks. Especially because he's also new. He's only been here for a couple weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Other news story. Oh, this happened a little bit before we got on. Robert Quinn with a hit and run.
What are there any more details about that? Because I kind of just saw that one and I was like, huh. That's
I don't know. Let me do a quick search real quick. But people were saying former Eagle Robert Quinn. It's like, I wish that we didn't give him that label. It is good that he has finally decided to make contact with somebody. That's good.
Oh man, I think I saw it was hit and run and an assault.
Yeah, this is NFL rumors. Former Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles pass rusher Robert Quinn was arrested in South Carolina on a hit and run and assault charges per TMZ Sports. Not great. You'd rather have a guy not do that, especially as a person who has been victim of a hit and run. The thing is that how do you hit and run and assault somebody? Because it seemed, do you hit them, run them, they say stop, you run out, punch them in the face to get back in your car and leave? I want to see the video. That's what I
don't know. I don't know.
Pure speculation here.
Pure speculation. I have no idea.
But that's what we got going on. Anyway, that's the news. So how do we want to tackle the kind of going over some of the other stuff that we saw in this preseason game?
I think moving from quarterback, just to stay on the offensive side after kind of going over the injuries, I think we got to talk about the running backs because
I agree.
To my knowledge, DeAndre Swift didn't play, and so it was Rashad Penny, Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, and Boston Scott, right?
I have Sermon, Brooks, Penny, Kenny G, and Bosco. Yeah.
So Gainwell did play. Okay.
Yeah, Gainwell played right at the beginning. Gainwell was the safety, which okay.
That wasn't on him. That's not on him.
No, it wasn't on him. But Brian Johnson's a new play caller.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this one,
buddy. I just don't know about running having a run straight up the middle into an 8-man box. Like that's what are you doing? You're opening the door on an orgy without being invited. Like you are just going to get shut down, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, honestly, not a great play call. Not a great play call. But, from the running backs, I think Rashad Penny and Trey Sermon both looked pretty good. I think they both looked pretty good. Obviously, Sermon had the fumble. Look, fumbles happen. That was an absolutely phenomenal punch out by
it was very good.
The Cleveland defender on that play. But he bounced back. Sermon looked like he had some juice going downhill, and Penny didn't get too many carries, but he looked good running the rock too.
Yeah, Penny had two carries for 18 yards. His long was 16. That was a good looking run. And that's nice because we like there was, I think there was talks this week. One of those football Twitter accounts was like trying to throw out stuff, be like the Eagles might cut Rashad Penny. It's like, I don't think so. I do not think so. And I think yesterday with that performance, because that's kind of like DeAndre Swift last week, where he carries the ball twice, rips off a big one, and then take him out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, no need to risk an investment, right? No need to risk a guy getting hurt where you had a lot of guys get hurt last night. So I do think it was a smart move, not really pushing the envelope on what was a good night for Rashad Penny.
Yep. I agree.
So, and I guess building off what you said, now that you brought it up, like Trey Sermon, bouncing back after the adversity and looking pretty good running the ball. Do you think he's pushing for a roster spot, or do you think he's more of, practice squad fodder at the moment?
It's just hard to say that he's not going to be a practice squad guy. Like you just knowing what we've seen. So like what we saw last week, DeAndre Swift was only in for a couple snaps. Like what we saw this week with like what we said with Rashad Penny being in for a couple snaps. Boston Scott only got 1 carry. Kenny Gainwell only got 2 carries. Like, you think that they're taking these guys who are going to be starters and not giving them the reps that these other guys. I mean, this is what it's. Does that make sense? I'm stumbling over my thoughts here, but we've seen what they're going to do with DeAndre Swift. We've seen that they saw what they needed to see out of him. Take him out of the game because he's a starter. Yesterday, you can assume the same thing with Rashad Penny. Like we said, see what he does, take him out of the game as a starter. We know Kenny G is going to make the team. What do you drop Boston Scott for Trey Sermon? I don't.
It's so hard because, one, you don't really know like what the internal thought process is for them with their running backs.
Right.
You don't know, like you said, new offensive coordinator. How does he value the different running backs? What does he want to do with the scheme, and how did these different guys fit into the scheme? You know, roster construction with some of the other guys on the roster, in the sense of, can we carry more running backs because we feel confident about not having this many players at position X or position Y? And really relating to Sermon, I think if he got the opportunity, he could be pretty good. But the thing is, I don't think the Eagles are the team for that. I don't think you need to keep a Trey Sermon when you have a Rashad Penny. I think Penny's better, and Penny fits the role that Sermon would have.
Yeah, and I mean, Sermon, you could argue that his use is going to be with his running style straight up and down, or north and south rather. He would be a good goal line back. Jalen Hurts is your goal line back. Like, I mean, I don't, if they're wanting him to be a practice squad guy, I don't think he's going to make it back to him off of waivers.
No, there's too many teams in the NFL that are going to need running backs. And
right.
The Eagles are in a very advantageous situation where they already have the running back depth and they can let someone like Sermon go. Like, for example, let's say the Eagles didn't add a DeAndre Swift this offseason. I would think that Sermon would have a much better shot of making the roster.
Yep.
But Swift can do everything. You have a Penny that can get downhill. And whether you want to keep both over one of Gainwell or Boston Scott, they're a nice change of pace player. Trey Sermon doesn't really fit into that mold. And let's face it, in today's day and age, I'm a big proponent of guys getting paid. Always. If you really need a running back, you can pick one up off of waivers. And if the Eagles really needed that type of running style, there's plenty of running backs that could fit that bill. It's unfortunate reality for that position, but it's true.
Yeah, and it's from a fan's side of things. Because Kennedy Brooks doesn't stand a chance. I think everybody's on the same page with that. I think everybody would kind of like, if they cut DeAndre Swift, everybody would be bummed out. If they cut Rashad Penny for some reason, people would be like, what the hell is going on here? They cut Boston Scott, you'd be like, this is a catastrophe because of how much joy he can bring to life just in general 2 weeks out of the year. Kenny Gainwell, you'd be like, damn, this sucks. But if it's Trey Sermon, you're like, that's a bummer, man. That's a bummer. It's sucks for him, I guess. But it's also it's such a complicated thing with this Eagles running back room.
It really is, and it's like they're in the advantageous spot, but you don't want them to get rid of the wrong player,
right?
Because the minute you get rid of the wrong player,
gone,
and you have that injury, well, guess what? Now you're searching for a guy to replace that player that you got rid of in the offseason. It's a fine line, and it's going to be very interesting to see what those decisions ultimately are.
But on the flip side of that, I only see I mean, it feels like this is what happened a lot last year. The Eagles only dressing 3 running backs every Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think like if that guy goes, like if they get rid of a guy and you're like, man, we lost a depth guy, I think that you have the Boston Scott there as your depth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good scenario. It is a good problem to have, but it's not the worst. Not the worst if they cut the wrong guy, but it's a whole thing.
Where do you want to jump to next?
Do we want to talk about wide receivers? There's not a whole lot to talk about.
I mean, do you want to touch on anyone specific?
Well, I obviously want to talk about Johnny King. Obviously, you said that you weren't watching the game in the fourth quarter. buddy, that's when Johnny King comes to life. Okay, Johnny King. Let me tell you something about us Southeast Missouri State boys. Okay, if there's a time that we come to life, it's when everybody's down and out, everybody wants to go home. That's where we hit our stride. Okay, Johnny King, my guy for the 2-point conversion. What a catch. I guess is that he did not do very well, but he came alive. That's the only person I care about.
I mean, Joseph Nagata, didn't do a ton, but he looks good. He looks good every time. Like he's getting open, he's making catches. Tanner McKee likes looking his way. Like,
yeah,
he's playing good. And quite frankly, the receivers, the biggest takeaway I could have is I really don't want to see Zacchaeus on the field with Mariota anymore. Please get him time with the ones, please.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm begging you. If you really want him to be a big part of this team, please stop running him with Mariota and getting him hurt.
Right, man. And I will say on the Nagata side of things, that was the only person that didn't let Tanner McKee down. Like, because that's what Tanner McKee, what did we say? He was 10 for 18, 147 yards, and a touchdown, a passer rating 100.9. Should have been probably 15 for 18 or 16 for 18 because these ball, there's as soon as he goes in, drops a beautiful back shoulder throw, a throw that Jalen is near the end of probably midway through the last season was when Jalen was becoming elite at that throw. Tanner McKee, a rookie, and he's just like, you know what? I'll come in after we saw a catastrophe of a quarterback, and that's a first throw that he does, hits the guy, drops it. It's like, what are
there's a reason why these guys are third stringers.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
You say that, but Deion Kane, noted USFL MVP. Yuck.
There's a reason why it's USFL MVP.
That's 100% true. We saw Devin Allen finally get some balls thrown his way. Devin Allen, the two-time Olympian, 2016, 2020, 110-meter hurdles. He finally caught the ball a couple times, didn't do a whole lot with it. I think earlier this offseason, he said that he was the fastest person in the NFL, which physically may be true. If you're an Olympian, I would certainly hope that you're faster than a lot of people in the NFL. I don't know if you're faster than Tyreek Hill. But he said that. Turns out he never really got an open space, which leads you to believe that maybe that might not necessarily be a true thing. I just hope that he has an illustrious career in hurdles is what I'm hoping for him.
That's the kind way of saying he doesn't have an NFL future. If you guys are paying attention,
that's exactly it. Greg Ward, 3 receptions out of 4 targets. Greg Ward's never going away. Greg Ward on his seventh training camp with the Eagles. He's like Velcro. He's like the perennial
what do you call it? Perennial depth wide receiver, which that's not a bad thing to have. No,
it's being the bullpen catcher. It's not a bad gig if you can get it.
No. So I think I want to jump to defense because
let's do it.
There's position defensively. Well, one of them that stood out to me. One of like 2.
For sure.
The linebackers. I think it's not. I'm not panicked, but I need to see a little bit more consistency from some of the Eagles linebackers and specifically Nakobe Dean. So for me, looking at his game, he had some great plays. Like he looked fast. He looked, basically reacting in a way where those instincts are going to play at a high level. But he allowed some plays in coverage, multiple stupid penalties, and at times he just looked like he wasn't really a good. I'm searching for the word here because it's not like he looked like he didn't belong, but he didn't look quote unquote like full starter caliber all the time.
The game looked like it was moving pretty fast for him.
Yes.
And only having 34 snaps in the NFL will probably do that to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so where Nakobe Dean is good. Where he's good is that when he is heating up the quarterback, when he's getting into the backfield. And when he got that fumble, and when he got that fumble, and I've watched it a bunch of times. And buddy, if you told me that it was a near missed tackle, I'd believe you. If you told me that he purposefully knocked that ball out, I believe you there too. But the reason I believe more so, the reason that I'm thinking that it's a coin flip on the missed tackle and purposeful fumble is that's where he's good. That's where he's good, is when he's able to just run downhill and make those hits. So I have the faith in him to be able to do that, and it's good because otherwise that drive was terrible. Other than that fumble, if it wasn't for that, the world's being like, God damn it, why did we waste a 3rd round pick on this guy?
And I think the way you said it, the game moving too fast for him, I feel like that's very accurate. It looked like he was like a step late on certain things, like a step late in his run fit, a step late in his coverage, to where, more reps can help that out, but sometimes it doesn't. And unfortunately, we don't know one way or the other. And by the nature of the Eagles never really investing in the linebacker position, you're having to rely on a Nakobe Dean. Morrow looked good. I think Morrow looked fine.
Did you?
I don't think he didn't stand out in a bad way like Nakobe Dean did, in the sense of he didn't have costly penalties and allowing like 1st down yardage and not playing at a consistent level. But you have to rely on Dean, Morrow, Miles Jack, Zach Cunningham to be your guys at the position. Christian Ellis looked decent.
Yeah.
But
he had a better game against the Ravens. But
it's like, you're not going to know until you know. And unfortunately, that might cause some issues for the Eagles this season.
No, it seems kind of dumb to talk about this, but that penalty, that unnecessary roughness, I don't think it was as much of the hitting him while he's sliding, because that was an incredibly late slide. That was almost like
it was a stupid play. It was a stupid play. Like, if you see him going, and there's always a fine line, right? I don't mean to cut myself off, but there's always a fine line, right? It's, he was moving so fast that he couldn't stop himself. It looked like he could have stopped himself, but he just went for a kill shot on him for no reason.
Yeah, like, it looked like DTR slipped on a banana peel with that slide. Like, his feet just like shot out in front of him. So I get that it was almost more like he was doing like a butt slam on the ground than it was a slide. But I think the penalty came more from Nakobe Dean hitting him in the face rather than it was the slide.
He went for a kill shot, and it's just like that's the type of stuff where, okay, in the preseason we'll let that slide. What if you're playing let's just throw it out there, right? The Giants. Daniel Jones takes off and does something very similar to that, and Nakobe Dean has that same play. Well, guess what? If this is the 4th quarter and you're giving the Giants a free 1st down because of that play, no one's going to care if Nakobe Dean comes down and said, I didn't realize he was sliding. Guess what? You cost them the game. You cost them a drive that kept going that could have a key impact on the game.
Yeah.
And Nakobe Dean is looked at currently as one of those potential starters. And I'm not saying that one preseason game is going to determine my outlook for him as a good player, a bad player, a middling player. But even with all the good a guy can do, signs like that, and the fact that it wasn't just one penalty, but it was multiple penalties,
right?
It makes me be like, okay, this might be a bit of an issue right now in terms of just discipline.
Yeah, because and I think that's the discipline's way to think about it. Not being dumb. Derek Barnett is dumb. I think because Nakobe Dean, his entire thing was that he's like in college, he was the smartest player on the field. And I think that actually does come into play with the game looking a little bit too fast for him right now with the lack of reps, is that he's having trouble actually diagnosing what's happening during the play, where in college it's happening much slower. But yeah, when it comes to a penalty like that, that is a discipline thing rather than him just being an idiot thing. Because again, Derek Barnett, very much an idiot. Also, Derek Barnett has been getting playing time in these preseason games and he's not doing anything. And all we want is for Derek Barnett to do something, because if Derek Barnett does something, then we can get rid of him. If you do something, Derek, we won't have to make fun of you anymore. It's always him, except this time it's never him. And we just want it to be him. God damn it, Derek.
Translation: Derek Barnett, please do something of significance in this game.
Please, buddy. And I can't imagine Nolan Smith's going to play. Hassan Reddick's got the thumb thing until week 1, which is good. That he's going to be good by week 1. So Derek Barnett, this is your time, my friend. This is your time to shine, because hopefully we won't have to see you for the next 4 months. Please, for the love of God, do something so we can get rid of you. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for me. It's going to be good for everybody if you just do something and get the hell out of here. Very frustrating.
Very eloquently put. Great job.
I've said this multiple times. I wake up screaming it. My wife is very upset with me.
So I think that that basically covers the linebackers. So looking at the rest of the players, I mean, we don't have too much time left, but corners, Keely Ringo, I mean, like his play style, love his athletic traits. You saw why he's a work in progress.
Did you see that play? Was that him, or I think that was Keely Ringo, where he read the play perfectly and then just lost the ball?
Yep. That is why he's a great developmental option for the Eagles. He has all the talent in the world. He just has to learn and develop his ball skills a little bit more. Because if Keely Ringo turns around, that is an interception.
Yeah.
It's an interception. And there's the different levels of it, where it's like, if this is Keely Ringo year 3 and that's still happening, it's a much different reaction to Keely Ringo rookie year. Eagles haven't really developed him yet. If they have a chance to develop him, he could turn into a future starter at the cornerback position for them. It's not me panicking. It's me just seeing, okay, this guy does have room to improve. He's not a finished product.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, it's almost good to see that he has that room for improvement, where you're like, okay, he's sticking to that guy like glue. He just needs to finish it. So it's like, yeah, he's definitely got the talent.
Oh yeah, and he was on him perfectly. It was it was a great throw, and it was just a play where if he whips his head around, he's either picking it or defending it, because it was a great throw, great defense, but the little difference between that being a good play for the defense and the catch that it was for the offense is realizing when the ball is thrown. Yep. Simple as that.
Yeah, again, 21 years old. He is very young. He's got a lot, and you got to imagine with the way that Slay talks to the other cornerbacks, he's probably given Ringo a lot of heat. So hopefully, Ringo is a guy who learns from negative reinforcement, because he's absolutely getting flamed in the group chat right now.
Yep. Do you want to touch on the safeties, Sidney Brown, Kevon Wallace?
Yeah, Kevon Wallace, death, taxes, and Kevon Wallace making tackles in the preseason, and then not so much in the regular season. That's how life goes. I don't know. They had him in at the beginning of the game, and then they had him in the fourth quarter too. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, is not spectacular. But again, he was making tackles, so that's good. But Sidney Brown is much more fun to me. One of the touchdowns that the Browns got, the guy clearly was in the end zone, and then Sidney Brown ran in and just blew him in half too. That was good. I like that. I don't care. I don't care if that.
It's an edge. It's a guy that plays with an edge. That you like seeing that.
Yeah, give me a wild man. Give me a bomb back there. I'm excited to see him. And he's one of those guys where if they are doing a 3 safety set, like Sean Desai has shown that he might do in the season, I think Sidney Brown being in there as a wild card would be pretty fun.
Well, if he's hitting like that, right, does that potentially mitigate some of your concerns with the linebacker spot? I think it could.
Oh yeah, that's why I like the idea. Like I said this before the show. Give me Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham at linebacker, or give me a 3 safety set and have Sidney Brown in there to blow people up. I feel like that's good. Sufficient.
Yeah. I think to wrap up, I'll give you the floor here. Ty Zettner in our little rundown. You have 39.8 yards. So can only imagine what you were about to say.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb that they don't just get a guy literally a guy, get a guy off of the street and see what he can do. Because Ty Zettner, not only did he average 39.8 yards per punt, he was the longest hang time that I timed for him was 4.2, I believe is what it was. Which is, listen, 4.0 is okay. Is okay. 4 point, buddy. You're not going to win the spot. At this point, I don't want any punters. I'm actively rooting against Aaron Sipas to make the roster. It's like the only guy that I'm actively. Well, I guess Derek Barnett, but the only guy that I'm actively rooting against is Aaron Sipas to not make the roster. And at this point, not Ty Zettner either. Get them both the hell out of there. What are we doing with these idiots? What are we doing with these guys? And then Ty Zettner had after the safety had to do the free kick, and it thank God the guy decided not to field it, and it went back to like the 5-yard line or something like that. He's so bad. We don't need a punter that's accurate. They're not going to punt the ball if they're near midfield, guys. They're not going to do that. Get a guy with just some roided out leg and just let him blast it. You got the Philadelphia Union. Just get a guy. Get a guy. Just stop doing this. But we're going to get stuck with Aaron Sipas going into the season, and he's going to blow it in the playoffs, and everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, this is what Aaron Sipas does. And damn it, man. It is so frustrating that the spot that the Eagles are at the worst on their roster, the position they're worst on their roster, they're damn near the bottom of the league. It is so frustrating.
Well, you look at some different teams, right? And they might not realize it now, but bad special teams can legitimately cost you games. I mean, yeah. You've seen it, right? The bad punt that all of a sudden, instead of a team being pinned inside their 20, they're now at the 45. And now the team has that much shorter of a field. Or the punt that is supposed to be kicked out of bounds, but you kick it to the returner and the guy returns it for a touchdown. Or the fact that you're continuously giving teams good field position when they could be pinned, and all that stuff, while the Eagles may not think it matters, which I'm sure they do think it matters, but maybe they don't feel like moving off of their guy, it could come back to bite them. And this is a mantra I live by when I evaluate these situations. Try something until it works. Keep adding guys, keep adding punters. And at the end of the day, if you can't find someone, you make it a priority until you do find someone. You can't just sit on your hands and wait, because the teams that are okay with bad situations on special teams, whether it's kicker, punter, long snapper, holder, whatever it is, they're the teams that lose games because those mistakes come back to bite them in the ass.
Or you could do what the Eagles do, give your special teams coordinator a raise, and then keep your same punter. There are it's either 6 or 7 teams, whether or not it's including the Eagles, being that one team that's different, that have multiple punters on their rosters right now, which is not giving you a lot to look at, man. And it's like they didn't. There was the guy in the XFL, Daniel Wayland, who's now the punter for the Packers. The guy had an absolute cannon for a leg, and they didn't look at this guy. It's like there are other options, man, and it's just so damn frustrating. Like you said, it can just flip a game. Or you can shank a punt during the Super Bowl, give it to Kadarius Toney, can run it back to the 5. We could just be fine with that. It's very frustrating.
Yep.
All right. So that is us extrapolating on a 3.5 hour long football game where one half of the game was absolutely abysmal and nothing happened on offense, and one good play was on defense. We did it. We made it. We made it through that. Thank you guys very much for sticking around and watching us. We will be back on Monday. I believe what we talked about, potentially maybe doing a fantasy football thing where we talk about where it would be appropriate to draft Eagles, because everybody wants their guy in fantasy. Makes fantasy much more fun, but you don't want to overreach and grab somebody and make a bonehead decision. So we'll probably talk about that, maybe talk about other stuff too. But thank you guys very much for coming and hanging out with us on a Friday night. That is Brandon Pockris. My name is Jake Beckman. Go Birds.